Baymore Stables presents Chatter at the Bit. Today we're going to talk about genetics and diseases. Genetics is something that is so diverse and complicated. I think scientists are even just going to tell you they're only tipping the iceberg. They're still finding out stuff. You will never be able to identify with 100% certainty what's in your horse's gene pool right now. Maybe in the future, I don't know. But right now, it's a crapshoot. So I'm going to start with a little bit of facts to make you think a bit. In horses, their gene pool is made up of 50% sire and 50% dam. You hear a lot of people that'll say, oh no, the mare's 70%, the stud's 20% or 30% or 40%. That's actually factually untrue. Where they get that from is each foal has 50% of the sire, 50% of the dam. But for that extra 4 to 6 months that foal is with its mom, it's learning her sociability, it's learning her traits, it's learning her temperament. So you might get where the mare's imprinting on the foal, but that's not a DNA issue. So you kind of have to realize that's what you're going to get. Also, there are 22,000 genes in horses. There's 64 chromosomes, and the DNA is approximately 2.7 million base pairs. So you sit back and go, So this is why breeding is a lifetime choice. It is not something to take lightly. So when you look at that, it's like you're getting 50% of the mare, 50% of the sire in your foal. What 50 are you getting? And that's the question that has not been answered as of yet. They can't define with certainty what parts of the DNA of the sire and dam is going to go through to the foal. They can do the basics, like you can pretty much, with the pain horses, you have your certain stallions will produce dominant on their pattern and their color. And they've gotten that. But overall, if you want to go really in depth, we're just not there yet. So the most common diseases in horses is CA, cerebellar biotrophy, dwarfism, FIS, hernia, HYPP. So you kind of sit there and go, okay, yeah, how rare are they? In quarter horses, so we're going to jump right over to quarter horses. In quarter horses, you are required to stand a stallion that must be 5-panel tested. That association requires you to put on file if your stallion has been 5-panel tested. They don't judge you on the results, but they do require you to be tested. And you got to sit back and wonder why. So, and I'm not saying the breeders back in the 40s, when they formed the registration, I'm not saying they were wrong in what they were doing. I just think that what they brought to the table far exceeded the gamble they were playing. And it hurt it long term, but at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of other options. So we have the 5-panel testing for quarter horses is HYPP, which is hyperkalemic parodic paralysis, PSSM1, polysaccharide storage myopathy, MH, malignant hyperthermia, GBED, glycogen branching enzyme deficiency, and HERDA, hereditary equine regional dermatomyasthenia. Now, those are the ones we test for at this point. They are trying to bring in a 6th test of IIM. I don't know if it's passed yet or not. But every one of those can be traced back to a lineage in the quarter horses. HYPP, as everybody knows, is impressive. And he was a top stallion. Like I said in the previous, didn't think I'd ever have one, but I got one. And you have Herda that was traced back to Poco Bueno. And you have GBED that was traced back to King. So you have very dominant stallions that were not 5-panel negative when they were becoming the top stallions. And each one of these diseases, HYPP, PSSM1, I had one that came up PSSM1, and they are not. That's not something you should ever consider breeding. Now, you hear a lot of stallion owners say, oh, well, yeah, he's a carrier, but if you don't breed the one with it, he's fine. Partially true. But if you're breeding a gray mare, how do you know if it's not a match? Like, these are what the Quarter Horse Association requires. But that doesn't mean this can't show up in another breed. Like in Arabs, they have the lavender foal syndrome, which is where the foal is born very weak and with a slight tinge of pink to it, and they usually die. Everybody wants to find a reason to say it's genetic, so it's not their fault. Some things just can't be defined. So when you go to look at it for quarter horses, my stallion is 5-panel negative. I post his results. And this is why I emphasize strongly. All stallion owners should post the results of their panel testing. Whether they're a carrier or not, I'm not saying they should be judged. But it shouldn't be rushed. It shouldn't be brushed under the carpet either. And it shouldn't be something that is like a side pass. Yeah, he's just a carrier. As long as your mare's clean's fine. Because a lot of quarter horse mares out there are not 5-panel tested. So if you're going to breed your untested mare, which I do believe AQHA is now requesting that they be 5-panel tested, but that's only a recent development. So if you're breeding your untested mare to a tested stallion, it makes it a gamble. And if you're willing to take the gamble, that's fine. But at least do it with the confidence you know what you're gambling with. And that's really the genetics of the disease panels. Anything can happen in utero. Mares don't respond to stress well while they're pregnant, especially in the second, third term. It's been thought that second and third term abortions have been attributed to GBED, which it could be. They can't formally say, oh, this is the cause, but it is a summation. And you want to, anybody who's lost a foal, and any breeder will tell you, it is heartbreaking. But you look at the foal, and you're looking for 3 things. You're looking for a deformity, you're looking for a lesion and or swelling, and you're looking at that after birth to see that what color it is, are the horns tore, that's what you're looking at. And if that all looks normal, it might be a shit happens. Rhinopneumonitis is a viral infection that mares and foal, if they do contract, will abort. We do have a vaccination, I think, at 3, 5, 7, and 9 months. It's something that will absolutely cause abortions. But you have the facts of what genetic diseases are or not, and then you have where people want to blame the abortion or the dead foal on something. These 5-panel testings, I'm all for. I think it's wonderful. But no stallion owner, if they choose to stand a stallion that's not 5-panel clear, that's their choice. But they have to accept the consequence to that too. Is they have to explain what they are a carrier of. I don't think once you explain what hernia can do to a horse at 2 to 3 years old, when their skin starts literally sloughing off, I think if you explain that to a mare owner, they might go, oh, I don't want that. Because that's what hernia is. It doesn't develop till their second or third year, and when you start training them, is their skin basically starts sloughing off. And there's no cure for it. It's a matter of, it's 100% fatality. HYPP is another one. And then you got your lethal white syndrome, which is more common in, I think, paints than anything, but can be linked to impressive too. And that's where your foal is born and the intestinal tract is not formed properly. So, and PSSM1 is they can't develop sugars very well, and they have to have a certain diet. Some horses live long lives with PSSM1, but I wouldn't breed one. So you got to sit back and say, okay, if I'm a stallion owner and I'm not standing a 5-panel clean stud, if I'm a carrier for GBED or I'm a carrier for hernia, or, well, HYPP, I don't think you're allowed to breed if you're a carrier for HYPP, but I'm not sure either. Then it is your responsibility to explain to the mare owner what he is a carrier of. Because it's absolutely detrimental. But it's something that's a consequence to you doing what you're doing. And that's why I always say, don't breed to a stud because of his color and he's pretty and my friend has one. Do some research. Find something else. So then we go into, everybody wants to say, oh, it's genetic. Cryptorgism is a one-nut wonder. I had a one-nut wonder. It's actually fact that a single cause has never been found. They have never been able to prove if it was unifiedly genetic. So they've come back with, it's a complex combo of genetics, hormones, and mechanical. So what they're saying is, we know what happens in utero. It's one of those things, if, maybe the ring wasn't set up right, or maybe the mare took a kick to the belly. They're saying that we don't know. But everybody you talk to, if you say, oh, well, he was a crypto, oh, well, that's genetic. No, it actually is not. It's never been found to be. A lot of assumption is made, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I stood a crypto stud, and out of all his babies, 2 of them were cryptos. The rest of them were fine. So me personally, I don't believe that is a genetic issue. Same as with the umbilical hernias. Now, I've been in more fights than I can count. It is not genetic. That's fact. It is environmental. The whole point to an umbilical hernia is when the foal is born, is the mare should, if she's a nice girl, lay there for about 3 to 9 minutes until the foal becomes active. It's the foal that should be breaking the umbilical, therefore, and the little hole it's in will close up. But if a mare gets up or is disturbed or is scared and jumps up, you're going to get that hernia because it's the excess blood that was going into the foal after birth pooling. It's not a big deal. I have Willow out here. She had a bigger hernia when she was born. It was a big sucker. And I had sold her to one lady, and I made no secret she had an umbilical hernia. Like, it's, And I said, no, just, you do what you want to do. It doesn't bother her. And then she ended up bringing the filly back. She goes, no, I can't afford that. And went on. It's like, okay, no matter what I said, I was wrong. So we brought her back. And she's 7 years old now, and it's gone. But there's bands you can do when it's first there. You really shouldn't touch an umbilical hernia for the first 10 days. Only because it is an open wound. If you cover it up, it can lead to infection. So I prefer not to wait until that, what I call the crust comes off. And then you can figure out a 1 finger, 2 finger, tape it, put a band around. There's several different things you can do. A surgery for umbilical in Canada is about $800. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect their performance. It doesn't affect their performance. It doesn't affect their breeding ability. And it's not genetic. So, but there is things that you should look at. Like thoroughbreds are genetically prone to laminitis. That's fact. So you kind of sit back and go, okay, everybody wants a colored horse. Everybody wants the prettiest horse in the field. Yeah, I get that. But that doesn't mean it's the best horse in the field. And so when I'm breeding, it's like my stallion has one white foot and a blaze. So I don't have a whole lot of, we call it chrome in the industry. I don't have a whole lot, well, I got Deca now. But I don't have a whole lot of chrome. I would like more chrome. But I got a chestnut, I got a gruel, I got a buckskin, I got a bay, I got a black. Got a couple bays, a couple blacks. And, I can tell you what color they're going to be because they come up with this really great website called Color Calculator, which is wonderful. Is you plug in the color and, it gives you generally a few options of what you're going to get. But when it comes to chrome and it comes to boy or girl or comes to, you have to think about it. It is a thought process. So if you have a mare like Cushing's. They're trying to prove if Cushing's is genetic. I don't think it's been quite proven yet. But if you have a mare with Cushing's, she shouldn't be bred. But if you have a mare, say, hypothetically, that blew a front tendon, has a bowed tendon, you have to ask yourself, well, yeah, but it was an injury. Okay, then you have to ask, was it an injury in performance or was it a flaw in conformation? And when you ask yourself that question, you kind of go, because anything can happen with horses. Trust me, we can wrap them in bubble wrap. They'll find a way to get hurt. It's ridiculous. So you have to, when you're looking to breed your mare, if your mare, say, has bad teeth, is that an environmental issue from previous care, or is that a genetic issue? None of this we can be sure of, but we should never count it out. So if your mare is hypothetically prone to urinary infections and prone to tying up, is that a environmental performance issue, or is that a genetic issue? I can assure you it's not a genetic issue. But when it comes to feet, joints, tendons, bones, that is where the genetics have to think. If you have a big-barreled horse, that's kind of thin-skinned, you don't want to breed to a big-barreled horse with thin skin because you're going to get the same thing. So, and like I've said before, is to properly assess your mare. Every horse has faults. There is no perfect horse out there. But when you sit there and you go, okay, you have to ask yourself reasonably, if you're wearing front shoes on your horse and you're going through the motions, is that because she has bad feet? Now, is that performance, trimming, or genetic? A lot of things can be attributed to being of a genetic background, but can't be proven yet. That may change in future to come. Right now, it can't be. But as a breeder, you want to be sure of that. You want to make a conscious decision to breed better. And you have to look at the papers. You have to look at the horse. You have to look at what you're going to do with a conscious effort. And it never ceases to amaze me. It's like they'll bring up, I had a girl years ago. This is going back years ago. And I had a girl come up. I was just recently married, which is scary shit too. And she wanted to breed her mare. And it was like, I had a gray stallion at the time. And I said, okay. She goes, well, he's gray. He's pretty. Okay. And no matter what question I asked her, she came back to, well, he's gray. I want a gray baby. Yeah, but that's not a guarantee you're going to get a gray baby. And she didn't get it. And I'm thinking, you can look at the stallion, but that doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. I bred to, I have Darby, who I bred to a paint stud. He was homozygous. I mean, I would love another Skip the Investor baby. He is just, to me, the dominant paint stallion in Canada. That's my opinion. Love him. And I got a red and white baby. And absolutely, I'm not a fan of paints. I'm really not that much of a fan. But I certainly appreciated him. He was everything that was wrong with Ruby was right with the stallion I bred her to. And it was wonderful. It was like he had a nice gait. He had the space. He had he had the leg. He had the conformation. And put together, they were what I expected. And then I bred Ruby to Tommy. And Miss Saucy, we're going to call her Miss Saucy. She's for sale, by the way. I came up with a nice bay filly, but she's got 3 white feet and a big white star. But again, I bred, because Ruby has faults, I needed that for what Tommy was good to come out, and it did. But I didn't expect color. He's a Palomino, she's a bay. I did not expect color. And I never really expect color. So, and then this year we lost Ruby's baby, but we bred her to a red roan. And the baby was probably going to be bay, but I mean, he was gorgeous. 2 big white feet, big white face. We lost him, and it was sad. But it never ceases to amaze me on what they're going to produce, whether it be white on their face, whether it be how many white feet are they going to get. It goes beyond the conformation. It goes, you can go in depth and say, okay, I really want a horse with 4 white feet. Well, the only way you're probably going to get that is to breed 2 horses with 4 white feet and hope that all their lineage had all white feet too. Because the recessive, you have dominant genes, you have recessive genes. And the dominant genes are like the bay color, the black mane and tail. Like, you have your base dominance. Then you have your recessives that can reach up and sneak in there. And no matter how you look, if you have a horse with 2 white feet, there used to be a little box you do with 4 squares. You put X, 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 and when it came to white feet, you put 2 boxes with 4 boxes in each. And if you're looking at the white feet aspect, you would say the mare has, let's say 2 white feet. So you go 2X, 2Y. And if the stud, had 1 white foot, you go 1X, 3Y. And then you would figure out the calculation to what the percentage works out. The only one, because I know it off the top of my head, I'm terrible at math, is you get a 62% chance of getting 2 white feet on your horse, on your foal. But that's still a crapshoot. And you sit there, you go, okay, there was a problem with my colt, and you want somebody to blame. Everybody wants somebody to blame. But I've heard amazing crap through the years. I've heard that, well, if you ultrasound your horses, they'll abort. That's ridiculous. I've heard that if your mare gets bred in the rain, it's going to have a problem colt. What's rain got to do with it? Like, it's just, people have come up with old adages that maybe made sense at the time, but aren't logical. If there's going to be a problem in utero, there's nothing you're going to do to fix it. It's already happening. The bitch of it is you have to wait 11 months to find out. And it's, that's the hard part, is you wait 11 months, and like I said, you're either going to fall in love or your heart's going to get broke. But you can get excited. There's nothing wrong with getting excited as long as things are going to happen. A lot of people have the belief that if your mare's in foal, she shouldn't have anything done. That's 100% not true. Back when I was in college, I actually wrote a paper. Yeah, I actually went to school, guys. And I wrote a paper on the effects of keeping mares exercise during the gestation of a foal. My professor thought I was an idiot, and I kind of thought she was a bitch. So, yeah. But I read it. I pulled it out about 10 years ago, and I read it, and I went, I still believe this. And I do believe keeping mares in shape, not performance shape, but keeping mares in shape is healthy. Because I know in standardbreds, we can race a mare until she's 6 months in foal. A couple very top horses have been raced in foal. And it's such a vigorous training schedule. And when it comes to other breeds of horses, like I know quarter horses, I'm pretty sure that quarter horses can race until they're 3 months in foal. I'm not entirely sure. But even if you have just a riding horse, getting on and riding, absolutely healthy. Going up and down hills, healthy, healthy, healthy. And you should be going out and exercising your mare. Same as stallions. I've had a lot of people say, well, stallions need to be secluded. That's the worst thing you can do for them. They're actually quite sociable. But when you start treating them like they're a fungus, you're going to get behavioral issues. But that's not necessarily a genetic thing. And, I've had more people over the years that have said, well, my colt wasn't very good. Well, your stud must have an issue. No. Because people want to justify, no matter what you do, people want to justify the loss. And you have to stand behind your product. And that's why I said stallion owners have it tough. Because they're the ones getting blamed. And if somebody's out, I got a colt and it wasn't any good. My standardbred stallion, I loved him to death, but I'll tell you, he got no support in the standardbred industry. And it wasn't his fault, and it wasn't my fault. It was just, we have a certain criteria in standardbreds that has to be maintained in order to be successful. And the reality is he was temperamental. He was a complete outcross. He didn't have a strong maternal line. And he just didn't bring enough to the table to warrant outside mares. But I believed him. I still have 2 of his babies out in my field. And, and that's my point, is a stallion owner has to believe in their product in order to promote the product. There's consequences. You can't please everybody. So you're going to get the people that are going to beak off, of course, because they think they know everything. But you're going to get the people that are going to say, you know something? Despite that, I got a really nice horse, and that's fine. You just have to, when it comes to quarter horses, is you have to pay attention to the 5-panel testing. At any given time, you can email the AQHA. They have a part on their database that is free. You can put up, and it gives you the name of the horse, the owner, and it gives you the results of the 5-panel testing. You can call them on the phone. You can go to their website. And I cannot stress enough, if you're looking at a stallion that's not 5-panel clear, whatever they are a carrier for, look up to what they're a carrier for. Make sure you know what you know and go into an open mind. Genetics are going to be, they're going to be studied for years upon years. I mean, the real genetics testing horses really only started in the early 90s. And they're trying to make, they do everything, they do more testing than I think is necessary. But if you want to know, you got to ask. And when it comes to breeding horses, genetic issues and diseases that can be followed through are something every breeder is concerned about. And you have to make a very concentrated choice to be a breeder that's going to benefit both the stallion and the mare. And it is your perception, and it is what you see. But if you're taking outside mares, you have to explain if there's a consequence. And it goes to kind of knowing what you want. Sometimes, like they say, sometimes the gift inside the wrapper isn't worth the wrapper. Or another one is, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And that's what people have to get past, is horses are passed up because of color, unknown breeder, not registered. There's a variety of reasons. But, and I like the statement, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. And then they're disappointed and wonder why. And you kind of sit there and shake your head and go, I can't help, you're stupid. Because you try to explain it to them and they're like, no, that's not right. If it's just a carrier, then I'm fine. No, you're not. In some cases, that's partially true, but then you have to have your mare tested too. And it never ceases to amaze me on people that will breed and wonder why their horse is positive. It's like, or they'll say, I don't know how many times I've asked, has your mare been tested? For what? 5-panel testing? What do you mean? Well, there's 5-panel testing required in quarter horses. For what? And they actually don't know. And I'm thinking, how can you not? How can you not know that the breeding, when they formed the registry in 1940, it was done, it was done to enhance the breed, but there's some pretty nasty genetic diseases out there that you see pictures of and it will make you cry. And there's a couple that are 100% fatality. So would I suggest you get your mare tested? Absolutely. But, know what you're breeding and know what they're carriers of. Genetics there's nothing certain about genetics. There's no one person that could say, if you breed to my stud, I can guarantee that. Unless it's a homozygous paint. And other than that, that's been proven. They'll come out. But if they're not homozygous for anything, then it's a crapshoot. And you gotta know by looking at the stallion in the mirror with a open mind, which you might get. And nobody has all the answers. And nobody can tell you with certainty about anything. But that kind of makes it fun too. It kind of makes it like Christmas in the spring. At least for me anyways. So my advice to everybody is pay attention. Go to the AQHA website. They have a great write-up on the 5-panel diseases. There's a couple of people who have done studies on the 5-panel testing in quarter horses. I do think that they're wanting in quarter horses and paints is 6-panel testing. And you start looking up the breeds and what they may be prone to, and you'll be absolutely sincerely shocked. But it's something that it's better to know than to guess. And you kind of sit there and you can wing it. But who wants to wing anything? I want my Christmas package to come wrapped in blue and get up and just be cute as a bun. Didn't happen this year, but I'm sure hoping for next year. That's all I got on genetics. Stay tuned for the next one.